vocab list is iku, right? It changes to ikimasu and ikimasen, right? Okay, to return is kaeru. It changes to kaerimasu and kaerimasen. Good. To come, kuru, is kimasu, kimasen. Good. To listen, kiku, kikimasu, kikimasen. Good. Taberu, to eat. Tabemasu, tabemasen. To drink, nomu. Oops. What's it supposed to change to? Yeah, nomimasu and nomimasen. Does anybody know why?
Just the rule.
Okay, what's the rule?
If you have the U or the vowel changes, but the consonant doesn't.
Right, so for all the u verbs, whatever the final syllable of the dictionary form is on an u verb, that one changes from the u to the e within its column of hiragana. So if it's ku ending, it changes to ki. If it's su ending, it changes to
She.
shi. If it's akasa ta, if it's su ending, it's going to change to
She.
chi. Very good. If it's a new ending, it'll change to ni, right? If it's sorry, there are no hu endings, but if it's a bu, yeah, bu ending, it's going to change to b, yeah. If it's, let's see, if it's a mu ending, it's going to change to ni. Okay, does everybody see the pattern here? And if it's a ru ending, but it's actually an u verb, that ru is going to change to b. Okay, so if it's an u verb in disguise, pretending to be a ru verb, but it's actually an u verb, then you have to know ru changes to the. So like kairu, for example, changes to kaerimasu, right? Because it's an u verb still. To read, yomu changes to yomimasu, yomimasen. To speak, hanasu, hanashimasu, hanashimasen. Good. Now okiru is what kind? It's a ru verb, right? This one is a ru verb. What was the other ru verb we had so far? No, to come is actually what? Irregular. Okay.
Ease.
Yeah. So, okay. So, to eat. Where was eat? Yeah. There's the other ru verb we've had thus far. Okay. So, okiru, okimasu, okimasen. To sleep, neru, nemasu, nemasen, because it's a ru verb also. Right? To see, miru, mimasu, mimasen. Okay, to do, suru, shimasu, shimasen. And then to study, benkyou suru, benkyou shimasu, benkyou shimasen. So these guys are irregulars. Okay, so there's our u verb rule, right? U's change to e, but they keep the same consonant, right? When it's a ru verb, what's the rule? Just drop the ru and add the mas or masen ending, okay? And if it's an irregular, it's in the case of mas forms, it's actually kind of a weird hybrid of the other two. If you look at it, what's the first syllable doing? Ku changed to ki, right? And su changed to she. That's kind of like an u verb, right? But it also had a ru on the end that got dropped. So that's kind of like a ru verb, right? So the irregular verbs are almost like they took both rules and said, we're going to use both of them on the same verb.
After new, what is that? Enough for the
This neru?
for your silence.
Oh, nu, ni.
Not below it.
Oh, that's a boo, sorry. That's a very messy boo. verbs that end in gu, which would mean it changes to D, right? So if it's got a 10-10, it's gonna change to another 10-10 within that same grouping, okay? From U to E still, same consonant. I think this is kind of almost it. There aren't a lot of other verb endings besides these. These are the only ones I can think of offhand, actually.
Did I read somewhere in the textbook there was only one that had new as an ending? Only one verb?
Yeah, I think shinu is the only verb that ends in nu. Yeah, it's the only one I can think of offhand at least. Yeah, so, the vast majority of Japanese verbs are either gonna be u verbs or ru verbs. Those are the two major categories. Irregular verbs basically fall into two basic groupings: plain kuru and suru, and compounds that end with kuru or suru. So, and the compounds that end with kuru or suru conjugate just like kuru or suru, and you leave the other first part of the compound alone. So like benkyou suru, the benkyou part is technically a noun that's got a verb grafted onto it. So you leave the noun portion completely alone. You just transfer it wholesale. You don't change it in any way, okay? So the benkyou part doesn't change. It just goes from benkyou suru to benkyou shimasu, benkyou shimasen. And when you learn other conjugations of verbs, you'll find that that's still the case. Benkyou as a piece of the verb never changes.
So,
Okay.
okay, so what I'm trying to understand is, anything that ends with kuru and suru is an irregular.
Right, so for now, benkyou suru is the only additional irregular they're showing you, but there are other compound irregular verbs. A lot of the ones that have to do with playing sports and playing games take suru. So like terebi geimu suru for playing video games.
Okay.
Tennisu suru for playing tennis. Taipu suru for typing. A lot of times they're verbs that came from some other language, and grafting suru onto the end is how you make it conjugate in Japanese. Because if it came from some other language, it probably isn't going to just naturally accommodate itself to Japanese conjugations otherwise, right?
Mhm.
So you can't say typing in Japanese and have it make sense, right? So they do taipu suru to mean that somebody is typing. Make sense? Okay, and then kuru as a suffix usually works with a second verb in a special form that's made to connect from one verb to another, which you won't learn until second semester. But it's one of those things where if you're carrying something and bringing it with you, it takes kuru in the sense of coming with it. Okay, so there are compounds that take kuru and compounds that take suru, but whatever that front piece is, it just stays static, and the kuru conjugates to kimasu, kimasen, or whatever other form it needs to be.
So,
Okay.
when do you use ru and when do you use u?
The verbs that are classed as ru verbs are always going to be ru verbs. The verbs that are classed as u verbs are always going to be u verbs. They don't get to change categories. They're always that category, and they always follow the rules for that category as to how they conjugate. And so, as far as knowing which is which, you kind of have to start out by memorizing 3 pieces of information together. Memorize which group it belongs to, the dictionary form, and the lost form. Okay, so if you've got this and this, and, you know, I didn't write ooze on all of these, but these are all. So if you memorize this information, which category it went in, and this, you've got the building blocks that you need to go on with, okay? If you know hanasu hanashimasu, even if you can't remember what the category was supposed to be, the fact that you know it's hanasu hanashimasu should be able to tell you, oh, it's a new verb. It has to be because su changes to she, right? If you remember the hanasu and the u, that should be enough to help you know, okay, hanasu, so it has to change to she hanashimasu. So you should be able to, if you've got those three pieces of information, if you forget one and you've still got the other two, you can figure it out, right? Even if you have the mas form and the category, you should be able to reverse engineer and figure out what the dictionary form is, right? And the dictionary form, one of the reasons they call it that is because it is the form that you will find in dictionaries. If you're looking up a verb in Japanese, if you're looking up the English word, this is what the dictionary is going to give you, this form, not that. If you're looking it up in Japanese to find out what it means in English, if you look up that form in a paper dictionary, you won't find it. You have to look it up by this form to find it in a dictionary. Now, online dictionaries might be a different story. You might be able to get them to give you both. But, traditional paper dictionaries, they don't show you conjugations. They just show you the dictionary form of the verb. Okay. But let's say you think, oh, well, I never use a paper dictionary. I'm only going to use jisho.org or whatever online. There's still other good reasons why you need the dictionary form, which is that it's not only the dictionary form, it's also the simple present tense casual form. Okay, so just like this present tense form means someone will do it or habitually does it, and this is the negative of that same form. When you start learning casual speech, this is the equivalent of this for casual. Okay, so if I'm talking to somebody I don't know very well, and I want to tell them that I speak Japanese, I can say Nihongo o hanashimasu. If I'm talking to my best friend, and for some reason I need to remind her that I speak Japanese, I could say Nihongo o hanasu. I can use this form because it's casual. Okay, so for now, we're only working with the mas forms because those are sort of neutral polite. They're appropriate for approaching a stranger in Tokyo train station and asking for help. They're appropriate for talking to your host family the first day you're meeting them. They're appropriate for talking to your sensei in Japan or your classmates that you just met, so you're not friends yet. Okay, all those kinds of new people, new situations that you'll encounter the first time you go to Japan, the mas forms are what you need. Okay, that's the appropriate way to talk to people when you don't know them well yet, or when they're enough older than you, or in a respected position where you're supposed to be polite to them no matter what. The casual forms get taught later in this textbook, partly because they want you to be proficient with politeness first, before you get into casual. Because if you learn casual first, you're basically going to be insulting everybody you talk to until you learn how to be polite. Okay, so you want to learn the polite forms first, and then we learn some casual stuff later. Okay, somebody's writing creative stuff over here. Okay, so any questions about the basics of how these verbs conjugate? Okay, so I want us to run through some vocabulary and radicals real quick, but can we do these fast? Because then I also want us to get to some practice time. So, does everybody remember this silly looking thing?
Dagger axe.
Yeah, that's the dagger axe one. What's this one? eye,
Ear.
ear, foot, gold, gate, yes. Yes, the small short-tailed bird. Weird, huh? Rain, yeah. Horse. Power, strength, yes.
That was a no cop.
Yeah, it looked like a katakana ka, didn't it? This one is very close to a katakana nu also, but it's actually
Right.
right hand, also known as
Again.
again.
What's the left hand look like?
It's completely different. Mouth, yes.
Egg.
Sun, yeah. Moon, tree. Rice field, yep. Speech, yeah.
Shell.
Shell, yeah.
Something like
Walk or run, yeah. Depending on which translation you want to use, it could be either walk or run. Enclosure, yep.
Ground.
Ground or soil, yes.
Evening.
Evening, yeah. Oh, backwards.
Big.
Big, yeah.
Woman.
Woman,
Child.
child,
Inch or
inch,
measurement.
yeah. Another backwards one. Okay, this one and this one are both versions of heart. Yeah. This one is
Labor.
labor,
Thread.
thread or string. Actually, no, this one is tiny, and then thread or string has small underneath it, small and tiny. It's thread. Fine silk. This is the bow from archery, yeah. This is small. These are both in hand. Person and the other person, right? This one and this one are knife. Yeah. This one and this one are water. These are
Shell.
show. And these
Eat.
are eat. These are
Clothing.
clothing, yes. Oh, there's, the fine silk thread, yeah, this one. You see how it's tiny on top and small on bottom? And bottom. And the last one is fire.
The one for show, was it show as in I'm showing you something?
Yes. Yeah, shimesu is the Japanese verb to show. Yeah, as in, yeah. Here, look at this. Okay, now we're going to remember our kana hopefully.
Kohi.
Kohi, which is coffee. My bun. Anyone remember what it means? My bun. Every night. My bun. So my as a suffix often means every. And so you put my with a time phrase and it's every one of those. So my nichi is every day, my ban is every night, my toshi would be every year, you know, et cetera, et cetera. There are a bunch of them. Okay, this is
Go home.
kaeru, to return or go home, yeah. Nomu is to drink. Ichibi is Sunday. Goro. Anybody remember? Ichiji goro, for example.
It's at about.
At about, approximately, yes. Shumatsu is everybody? Shu means week, matsu means end. So shunumatsu is weekend, exactly. Zen, not at all. So for example, sushi o zenzen tabemasen. I never eat sushi. Just an example, not real. Okay, or zenzen zashi o yomimasen would be I never read magazines, something like that. Okay. Okay, so it's always going to be used with a negative. Chotto is a little bit. Okay. Yoku is well or often. So yoku hanashimasu could mean someone speaks well, or it could mean they talk a lot. Okay.
Demo, but.
Demo is but, right? Taitei, like 90% of the time, usually. Okay, taitei is usually. Tokidoki is sometimes, and fun to say too. So desu ne.
That's right.
That's right.
Oh,
So
that
desu
makes
ne
sense.
is like, yeah, I kind of agree with you, kind of expression. So desu ne. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that is so right. Something like that. Do desu ka? How is it? Yeah. So like somebody gives you some sushi to eat, and then you start eating, and then they say, "Do desu ka?" How is it? Is it delicious? Hanasu, to speak. Right. Hokiru, to
Get up.
to wake up, to get up. Okiru,
Neru.
to sleep. Right. Sleeping. Okay. Kuru, to come. Yeah. Benkyou suru, to study. Hayai. Anybody? Hayai desu ne.
It's magic
It's
too.
early.
Early, yes. As in,
This is
You
too
know,
early to be here.
6時に起きます. Somebody tells you 6時に起きます. What are they saying? They wake up when? 6時, at 6. And somebody else says, 早いですね. That's early. Right? Nyomu is to read. Yeah. Naberu is to eat. Miru, to see or watch or look at something.
Any relation to Spanish, mira?
No, not that I know of, but
Coincidence.
yeah, coincidence. Isn't it interesting though?
Mm.
Yeah, this one, suru is
To do.
to do.
To do.
Eating is good.
E is good. Amari plus a negative, like amari tabemasen, not much. So like somebody who just doesn't eat a whole lot, amari tabemasen. Or somebody who doesn't often eat a particular thing, like sushi o amari tabemasen, means they sometimes eat sushi but not all that often. It's too darn expensive.
Not as often as you'd like.
Right.
Kyo.
Today.
Kyo is today, yes.
Imaki.
Konban, which evening? Konban, kon means now.
This
So
evening.
this evening, now evening, this evening, konban. This night. Konban. Doyobi is Saturday. Yeah. Mainichi is every day. Yeah. Iku is to go. Kiku is to listen. Yes.
Anbaga.
hamburger should be self-explanatory. Mo. Mizu is water. We've got the kanji for it from our radicals. Now you know the word for it, mizu. Fuchi is,
Like my house or?
yes, my house, my own home. Okay. Gakko is school. Ashita, tomorrow. Yeah. Ban gohan.
It's a meal, but.
Yeah, which meal is it? What's ban again? Dinner, yeah. Ban is evening, so evening meal, ban gohan, dinner, right?
Why is there, oh,
Ban gohan is evening meal.
Why is rice like?
Why do we say our daily bread? It was the staple food. When people were too poor to have anything else to eat, sometimes dinner was rice and a few vegetables sprinkled on top, you know? So yes, rice is considered the staple food in traditional Japanese culture. There are still some older folks in Japan who don't feel like they've really had a meal unless they've had rice with their meal. If all they had was, you know, toast and eggs for breakfast, they feel like they're not done yet until they have a bowl of rice too. You know, there are a lot of Japanese people now who eat more Western style foods frequently, and a lot of younger people especially will have like Western style breakfast, and then Japanese food for lunch, and then dinner will be sometimes Japanese, sometimes Western stuff. But a lot of older folks, it's rice 3 meals a day where they're not satisfied. Yeah. So hiru gohan is lunch, yes. Hiru is noon, so the noon meal, hiru gohan. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Ie,
House.
house. Not to be confused with ie, right? Which
No.
would have one extra e here, right? So ie is a house, ie is no. Very important distinction.
Ice cream.
Hi.
ice cream.
Yes, that's a fun one, right? Sasa is morning, right? Itsu. Itsu desu ka?
When,
When, there you go.
Eiga.
Eiga is, ready? Eiga. Not to be confused with eigo, which would be English language. This is eiga. Movie, yes. Film, something you see in a movie theater, eiga. This one is zashi, which means you find them on newsstands or in libraries or bookstores.
Magazine.
Magazine, zashi. This one should be self-explanatory. Deito, yes. And it is the kind where two people go out together, not what you
It's
mark on a
nice.
calendar.
date, romantic, not calendar.
Right. Yeah, and this is a familiar one too, I think.
Terebi.
Terebi is TV, yes.
Sake.
Osake, yes. The rice wine from Japan.
It's not
Osake.
really one, it's actually brewed, so it's a type of beer.
Oh, interesting,
Mhm.
okay. Well, at any
But you can
rate,
call it this one.
real, whatever, osake. Notice the pronunciation and the spelling of osake.
It's not all-
Americans call it sake all the time, but it's not sake, it's osake. Or just sake, if you don't feel like being polite. The O is an honorific.
Because I always call it sake, but I never knew it was an O in front of, should be an
Yeah.
O in front of it.
Well, the O is optional, but they're teaching it that way because in polite company, that's what people normally say. And dropping the O, it makes it a more casual feel to the whole conversation. So since we're learning polite forms right now, they're putting the O on.
Is that music? or-
Yes, ongaku is music, ongaku, which is actually a very interesting compound too, because this on is sound, the gaku part is pleasure. So pleasurable sounds, music.
Euphonium. Yeah,
Right,
sports.
sports. Just what it sounds like, right? Sports. Tennis. Exactly what it sounds like. Gotta love those katakana words, right?
Yeah.
Tennis. Asa gohan. Remember what's asa?
Morning.
Morning. So asa gohan, morning meal, breakfast. Makes sense, right? A lot of these compounds are very logical. You know what the components are. Ocha.
Ocha.
Green tea, yes, Japanese tea. Ocha.
1 o'clock.
Yes, it is 1 o'clock. Do you know how to pronounce it? Ichiji. Okay, so even though it's in kanji, not hiragana, the pronunciation didn't change, right? You just have to get used to, okay, well that is ichi, and that's ji. Remember we talked about ji? The breakdown of it, this part is the sun. This top left piece is, or top right piece rather, is the soil, the ground, and the bottom hinge. So basically you're measuring
Sun from
on the ground with, you know, you stick a stick in the ground, put measurements around it. Where does the sun put the shadow? Sundial, right? So what was an ancient way of telling time? Sundial. So this kanji totally makes sense for o'clock, doesn't it? Okay, so ichiji, 1 o'clock. What else have we got here? Goal. Yes, the number 5. Right. Roku, 6.
Yeah.
Ah.
So that's 100 times 10,000.
First read it. What does it say? What's this one?
Hyaku.
Hyaku, and what's this one?
Mon.
Man, right, so hyaku man. So 110,000s, which is 1 million, right? So hyaku man, 1 million. Okay. Yeah, hachiji, so 8 o'clock, right? Hachiji. What's this one?
Yoshi.
Yoji, right, 4 o'clock. Notice that the 4 is like a little box, 4-sided figure, so that's an easy way to remember that one. Kuji, right, 9 o'clock, right. What's this one? Goji, 5 o'clock, right. Ni, yes, easiest one ever, right?
The only one.
Is it just that font that makes it have that like?
Yeah,
triangle?
when you write it by hand, it's just 2 straight lines.
Okay.
It's just the font doing the weird little thing at the end.
Go.
Right. This is not gold, but yon. There you go.
I
Yon.
keep thinking go is 4. Because it should be 4, because it's Americanized, but it's not.
Juji. Right. Juji. 10 o'clock. Okay.
Sanbyaku.
Sanbyaku. That's right. Yeah. Notice that the pronunciation shift still happens even though you're looking at it in kanji, so you're not seeing the pronunciation shift spelled out, right? When you spell it in hiragana, you see it, sanbyaku. But you still say it that way even if you're looking at the kanji, sanbyaku. Hassen, right? Same thing. So, what's hassen again?
8,000.
8,000, right? Sanzen, 3,000. San.
Ni. Ichi.
Ichi, yes. It's only one of them. Ichi. Sanji, 3 o'clock. Rokuji, right? Shichi or Nana, right? Hachi, right? Yu.
Hyaku.
Juman,
100K.
yes, yeah. Juman, 10,000, so 100,000, right? Hyakuen, right? Nice cheap price. Sen, right? chichiji.
Rokyaku.
Rokyaku. Right. Miji, ichiman, and hapyaku. Okay. So, pretty cool, huh? So you guys can read some kanji now. Yay! Does that feel good?
Now it's more like I have to go learn kanji now.
Yeah, well, you missed the last class.
I will catch up.
Okay. Okay.
Where can I get the kanji actually too? Can I get your flashcards?
If the flashcards aren't already up here, I can look at putting them up here. Okay, I don't know that they're.
I can look them up and I'll email you if they're
Yeah.
up there.
Okay. Okay, so next I want us to work on some textbook stuff. We talked about how to do conjugation, so now we're going to actually practice them. Okay, so 95ページを見てください。95ページを見ます。Come on out here. 95. Okay, so we're going to start with A, changing the verbs from the dictionary form to the mas and masen forms. So we kind of got a cheat sheet right there on the board, but let's try to do it without help if possible. So, Yurika-san, I'm going to let you read the example out loud real quick.
It's Emily.
Oops. I did it again. I'm so sorry,
It's
Emily.
okay.
Okay. Okay, Emily.
Example.
Yeah, the examples. 95ページ. Okay, so just read the examples for us to start with. Having a hard time without the romaji there? Okay, Steta, you want to start us off?
Yeah. Nabira.
食べる
Tabira.
食べる
Tabiru.
食べる
Taberu. Tabemasu.
す
Su.
はい食べます
Tabemasu.
はい and then the second one
Taberu. Sen.
はい食べませんはい okay Emily-san, can you try to do nomu conversion? Okay, so nomu changes to no mu, so it changes to no mi, right? So no mu changes to no mi mas, no mi masen. Okay, say it one more time. Right, so no mu, no mi mas, no mi masen. Right. Okay, Tatiana-san, 2番. Kiku.
Oh, that one stays.
Yeah, the kiku, you're going to read the dictionary form first and then
Okay.
change it. So kiku and then Ki what?
Kikimasu.
Yeah, kikimasu
Okay,
and
Kikimasen.
there you go, kikimasen. So it sounds like a trick question because you think, is it really going to be kiki? But it is.
Okay.
Okay, so kiku, kikimasu, kikimasen. Okay, Dylan-san, 3番.
So immediately becomes mimas, because it's not,
Right,
and then mimasen.
right, exactly. Okay, Avery-san.
Suru,
Right,
and then shimasu,
はい、
and then shimasen.
はい。Andrea-san.はい、話す、話します、話しません。はい。
Iku turns into ikimasu,
はい。
which in negative is ikimasen.
はい。Okay, ジャックさん。来る、number 7.
Kuru. Kuru. Kumasu. Alright. Kimasu.
There you go, 来ます。
Kimasen.
来ません。はい。Okay, Emily さん。8番。変える、changes to. Kaerimasu and there you go. Kaeru, kaerimasu, kaerimasen. Okay. Neru,
Naru changes to
nemasu,
nemas, and it changes to nema-san.
right, nemasen. Hi. Okay. Let's go to Tatiana-san again.
Oh, sorry, what is it?
Okay, so she just did neru, nemasu, nemasen, so number 10.
Yomu, yomimasu, and yomimasen.
はい、11番。
Okiru just changes to okimasu and okimasen.
はい、12番。エミさん。
Benkyo. Suru.
はい、
And then Benkyo. Shimasu.
はい。
Benkyo. Masen.
しません。
Shimasen.
Right, 勉強しません. Let's not leave out the she. Okay, we need that. Okay, so 勉強しません. Okay, now the next exercise, we're going to add a direct object. Okay, and remember what particle we use with a direct object? We talked about it, but we haven't used it yet. Oh, that's right. Okay, so you're going to put the noun, then o, then the verb. Make sense? Okay, so the example is that she's reading a magazine, right? So Andrea-san, read the example out loud for us. はい. Okay. So does everybody see how that works? 雑誌を読みます. Someone is reading, or it really should be someone reads a magazine or reads magazines. Remember, the tense that we're working with here is future and or simple present, right? So simple present is things like, I always read magazines, or I read magazines every day, or I will read a magazine today. Okay, those are the two grammar structures that are encompassed by what Japanese has as the mas form. Okay. So, 雑誌を読みます. Okay, so she will listen to music. Alex-san?
I'm a little confused, so it's ongaku or
Listen.
The verb for listen is up there, so,
kiku,
right, changes to,
kikimasu.
there you go. So, 音楽を
Ongaku o kikimasu.
There you go. That's exactly right, okay? So whatever the noun is,
Yeah,
you put the
so-
noun, then the object marker, o,
Mhm.
and then the verb that you would use on that noun to do that noun. Make sense?
Yeah.
The thing that I'm confused about the second part, like the time of day.
Yeah, don't look at
Okay,
that.
don't worry about that yet. We're building slowly towards that. So we're gonna just do direct object and verb first. That's the simplest version of the sentence, and then we're gonna add place and time later.
Okay.
Okay, so for now, we're doing the simplest version of these sentences, which is just what the person's gonna do.
Okay.
Okay, so 音楽を聴きます。Okay, ジャックさん、tennis.
테니스 or trying to think.
Ah. In Japanese, the idiom is that she does tennis. We say she plays tennis, but in Japanese, you do tennis.
します。
Hi, so テニスをします. Okay? Weird, right? We don't, in Japanese, there is a verb for play, but the verb that gets translated as play from Japanese is really more like to do something for fun, for pleasure, not for some other reason like educational or whatever. Okay, it's not for work, it's not for education, it's not for getting your chores done, it's just for pleasure. There's a verb for that, but it doesn't usually get used with words for sports and games and things like that. It gets used as a standalone verb for, like, I'm doing this for the fun of it, basically. Okay, so we're gonna come back to Sita-san, and she's going to say eating a hamburger. Someone eats a hamburger. Hamburger.
Hamburger or na
Ta.
ta
Yes.
De.
tabe. Wait, no.
Yeah, tabe.
Tabe
Masu.
masu.
はい、食べます。
Tabe
ハン
masu.
バーガーを食べます。Okay?
Yeah.
ハンバーガーを食べます。So she's going to eat a hamburger. Okay, Tatiana-san, she's going to drink coffee.
コーヒーを飲みます。
はい. Okay. Dylan-san, she's going to watch TV.
Okay, so, テレビを見ます。
はい, 見ます. Notice that 見ます gets used for see, look at, or watch. We differentiate between those three verbs. Japanese does not. Okay. Avery-san, she's going to speak Japanese.
日本語を話します。
はい、話します。日本語を話します。Okay. So the next piece is we're actually going to go to B, which says to add the place to the above sentences. And when you're doing an action at a particular place, the particle that gets used here is de. Okay, so for doing an activity at a place, specifically that situation, it's place, de, and then object or verb. Okay? I'll write that pattern up here for you. So, place, object, verb, okay, and here. Place, de, object, or. Okay? Notice that we're dropping the subjects on all of these so far, right? We'll talk later about how you can add the subject in if you really, really want to, but you don't have to, right? All of these sentences are about Mary, so we already know who we're talking about, so we don't have to keep saying Mary-san wa, Mary-san wa, Mary-san wa, which gets really old, right? Okay, so going back to our example, so she's going to study, or no, she's going to read a magazine at the library. So, library de zashi wo yomimasu, right? So, who's going to read the example? Whose turn is it? Hai, dozo.
図書館で雑誌を読みます。
はい。Okay, どうぞ。
So it would be 図書館で行くを
No, she just did that. 図書館で雑誌を読みます. Okay, so now she's at home listening to music. See, it gave you the word home. We're back to the previous page. We're using the pattern from page 96, but we're on page 95.
Okay, so that would be on
What's the place first? Home.
is it yeah?
Okay, that works. Yeah, or uchi, one or the other.
Uchi, that was it. So uchi de
はい。
音楽を聴きます。
はい。うちで音楽を聴きます. Okay. Tennis at school this time.
That's cool.
So. 学校 is the word they're teaching in this. 学園 is like a private academy. 学校 is more general school.
学校でテニスします。
テニス
をします。
をします. Yes. Okay, 学校でテニスをします. Okay, Sweta-san, she's going to eat a burger at McDonald's.
McDonald's.
Okay, yeah. Believe it or not, here's the katakana for McDonald's. You ready for this? McDonald's. But there's good news. They've got a short form. You can leave that part off and just call it Makudo.
Makudo. Makudo. De.
Hamburger.
Hamburger. Why is it hamburger? For eat, right? To.
Ta. Tabemasu.
Tabemasu.
Hi. Okay. Okay, Tatiana-san. She's drinking coffee at a coffee shop.
Okay. Kisaten de. Kisaten de coffee or
Hi. Kisaten de kogi o nomimasu. Okay, she's watching TV at home.
うちでテレビを見ます。
Hi. Okay, and she's speaking Japanese at college.
大学で日本語を話します。
話します. Hi. 大学で日本語を話します. Okay, so does everybody kind of get how to use place with de to indicate that something's happening at that place? Okay, now I will turn that off. Okay. Okay, so now we're actually going to practice a different kind of use of location words before we add time phrases into anything. Okay? So we're making a contrast here that's pretty important. Okay? This place plus de is because we were doing an activity at that place, right? So we're already in the place and we're doing something there, right? That's one way of using place. A different way of using place is talking about traveling to or from a particular location, okay? So when you're traveling to a place, okay, when, let's say your verb is to go or to come or to return, then you do place plus ni or e. Okay? And we've got two options
For the destination.
for the destination. Okay, you can use the destination plus ni, destination plus et. The difference is if your destination is a physical place, something that is like a permanent building in a certain spot, like the King Center, for example, you can use either or, ni or et. Please don't use both in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Okay? But one or the other, pick one. Okay? If your destination is more of an event, so let's see, the concert. Okay, so let's say there's going to be a concert in the King Center, right? If you're saying King Center ni ikimasu or King Center et ikimasu, either one works. If you're talking about the event, konsato ni ikimasu, you only use ni in that case. Okay. So this mainly is going to, it's not really going to apply to return. It's going to apply to go and come because return is really specific to your own house or some other place where you belong, where you live. So for example, if you're visiting Japan and then it's time for you to get on a plane and fly home to the States, you could say America et or America ni kaerimasu. If you're in New York City and it's time for you to come back to Florida, you could say Florida ni kaerimasu or Florida et kaerimasu. If you're in, say, Miami and it's time for you to come back to Melbourne, you could say Melbourne ni kaerimasu, Melbourne et kaerimasu. If you're in school, say, and it's time for you to go back to your own apartment or house where you sleep every night, you could say uchi ni kaerimasu, uchi e kaerimasu. Okay? You're not going to use kaerimasu for returning to a place just because you've been there before. So like when you come to school in the morning and then you go home for lunch and then you come back later again in the afternoon, you don't use kairu for that kind of return. Okay? Because you don't live here, right? You don't have a bed on this campus. Sometimes you might wish you did, but
Yes, we do.
So do you get the distinction? So kairu is very specific to returning to a place where you belong, a place where you live. Okay? There's a different verb that gets used for going again to a place you've visited in the past. Okay? They just don't introduce that one yet. Okay? But when it comes to going or coming, place ni or et ikimasu, place ni or et kimasu. Event ni ikimasu, event ni kimasu. Now, the distinction between when to use go and when to use come is also interesting and different from English. Okay? If you are at school and you're talking about what time you're going to come to school tomorrow, you'll say, ashita kuji ni kimasu. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to come at 9, or whatever the time might be, right? Ashita gakko ni kimasu. Tomorrow I'm going to come to school. Ashita gakko e kimasu. Okay, so you're in school now, you're going to talk about coming to school. Okay? If you're at home when you're saying it, you're going to say gakko e ikimasu. Go to school, because you're not actually in school when you're saying it. Does that make sense? So go and come are relative to where you physically are when you're talking about the place that you're going to go to at some point. So if you are here, okay, and your friend is over here, and your friend wants you to come to where they are, they're going to use kimas to talk about your travel to them. Okay? They want you to do this, right? They're going to use kimas to say, please come. You're going to say, hi, ikimasu. Yes, I'm going to where you are. Because you're not there yet. So you're going to use ikimasu to say, yes, I will go to where you are. Does that make sense? So it's different from the English idiom, which is why I like to make sure to point it out. This book doesn't necessarily make it all that understandable. Okay. So let's use these examples to clarify that even further. So looking at her picture, because she's far from the post office and she's headed in that direction, which verb are they using for the example? Go. She's going to the post office, right? Okay. So whose turn is it to read? You get the example again. Okay.
郵便局に行きます。
はい。Okay. 一番
So, 図書館に行きます。
行きます。There you go. 図書館に行きます。Okay. Come to school. So we are at school and we're talking about Mary coming to school to join us in this perspective. Okay, so
学校に行きます。
はい、学校に来ます or 学校へ来ます either one. Okay. Emily-san, can you do number 3? Coming to the coffee shop. So a cafe is Kisaten.
So, kisaten ni
Yes.
no.
Come.
Kimasu.
Yes, kimasu. So kisaten ni kimasu. Okay, because maybe we're already in the coffee shop waiting for her and she's coming to us. See, that's why they're doing the perspective the way they're doing in these pictures, to give you that feel for, okay, she's coming to the coffee shop. I'm sitting in there waiting for her and here she comes. Kisaten ni kimasu. Okay, so that's Yonbai.
Yeah, ni kimasu.
Which one is for returning home specifically, just for returning home and nothing else?
I don't know.
We just talked about it. What was I saying? What's the special verb that only gets used for returning home, or returning to your own country, returning to where you belong?
Kiramas.
Kaerimasu.
Kaerimasu.
Okay, so uchi ni kaerimasu.
Uchi ni kaerimasu.
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 Hi, kaerimasu. Okay, and then 5, returning to the U.S. from Japan.
America ni kaerimasu.
Hi, America ni kaerimasu. Okay, does everybody understand that distinction they're making between ikimasu, kimasu, and kaerimasu? And does everybody understand the distinction between traveling to a destination place versus being in a place and doing some kind of activity? Does that make sense? So if you're already there and you're eating sushi in that restaurant, it's going to be restaurant de sushi o tabemasu, right? Because you're already there in that location. But let's say go back in time 1 hour, you haven't gotten to the restaurant yet, and you're just sitting in your house talking with your friend about what you guys want to do for dinner, and one of you says, restaurant e ikimasu. How about going to a restaurant, right? Restaurant e ikimasu would come first probably, and then レストランで寿司を食べます。So first you go to the restaurant, and then once you're there, you can eat the sushi, right? You can't eat the sushi long distance from your house, right?
That would be good though.
Yeah, that would be nice, but, okay, nobody's invented that one yet.
Amazon will do that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I think we're out of time for today, but what I want you guys to do is make sure that you're practicing these structures, and then see if you can work ahead and start to understand how the time stuff works as well. Okay, so next class we will continue on to D, making questions with those verbs. And we'll go on to time stuff, and then we'll go backtrack to parts B and C of this segment and add those time phrases in to, you know, things like reading books at the library and, you know, going to the post office at particular times. Okay? So that's how that's gonna work. Okay.
I think I figured it out. Am I supposed to be doing the same things?
Yeah, hold on a second, let me just turn this off first.